Welcome back and thank you for joining in on this deep exploration into one of the most astonishing stories in the world of American coins, a story that continues to surprise collectors, historians, and anyone fascinated by small details that transform an ordinary object into something unimaginably valuable. Today, the focus turns to a coin that most people have handled countless times without thinking twice, a simple Liberty $quarter from 1965, a common year and a common coin in the eyes of the general public. Yet, within that same year and within the complexities of the minting process, certain errors, unintentional combinations, and rare anomalies have given rise to coins worth more than luxury homes, exotic cars, and in some cases, entire business investments. Among these rare anomalies lies the extraordinary story of a 1965 Liberty quarter connected with unusual error combinations that bring its potential value all the way up to the astonishing figure of $474,000. What makes this story even more fascinating is the unexpected mixture of striking processes that involve leftover planchets from the Lincoln pennies, mint mark confusion, transitional metal usage, and minting equipment that had not yet been recalibrated during one of the biggest shifts in American coin history. When people imagine coins worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, they assume they must be ancient treasures, gold relics, or coins struck in microscopic numbers. But sometimes, the opposite is true. Sometimes, it is the common years, the everyday pieces, the coins everyone once had in their pockets, that hide stories capable of shaking the entire landscape of numismatics. The 1965 quarter is one such case, not because the coin itself was intended to be special, but because the minting process of that time was in turmoil. The transition away from 90% silver coins to copper-nickel clad coins created chaos inside the mint facilities. Machines were being recalibrated, older planchets were still mixed in bins, and leftover blanks from other denominations were scattered around presses that were switching duties. It is this period of confusion that produced some of the rarest American-era coins ever discovered, including the extremely scarce pieces of 1965 quarters struck on wrong planchets, transitional metals, or misaligned blanks originally meant for Lincoln pennies. Imagine a quarter from 1965 appearing completely normal at first glance. It shows the familiar portrait of George Washington on the obverse, Liberty displayed above his image, the date 1965 placed clearly below, and the reverse featuring the bold eagle that was standard for quarters of the era. Yet, despite looking ordinary, the coin weighs something different, sounds unusual when dropped, or bears microscopic traits that do not match its intended specifications. These are clues that something extraordinary happened during its creation. The mint, overwhelmed with the transition from silver to clad coinage, accidentally created hybrid anomalies, mistakes so rare that only a handful are believed to exist. One such mistake involved using leftover bronze planchets meant for Lincoln pennies, blending them into quarter presses, creating an impossible coin that should never have existed according to official mint records. It is important to remember that the year 1965 is a turning point in U.S. coinage history. The federal government made the monumental decision to eliminate silver from circulating dimes and quarters, replacing them with copper-nickel clad compositions due to nationwide silver shortages. This decision forced the U.S. Mint to rush through rapid adjustments. In the midst of pressure, overtime shifts, and equipment running non-stop, thousands of planchets, dies, hubs, and components were shuffled between machines. Bins that previously held silver blanks still held remnants. Bins that were meant for copper-nickel blanks sometimes contained bronze and copper rounds left over from the Lincoln cent production. And in these periods of hectic transitions, it is entirely possible for coins to be struck on wrong planchets or struck with dies not meant for their intended denomination. Collectors today understand that such coins are not designed, they are accidents of history. They represent a frozen moment where the mint's machinery misaligned with its purpose, producing something incredibly rare. But what makes the $474,000 valuation so astonishing is not just that it was struck on the wrong planchet, but that several unusual conditions happened simultaneously. This includes the possibility of a 1965 quarter being struck on a bronze penny planchet, a leftover silver planchet from 1964, or even on an experimental transitional metal blank. Additionally, Some extremely rare pieces may exhibit ghost-like mint marks that were not supposed to appear on 1965 coins, since the official policy was to remove mint marks to prevent collectors from hoarding coins during the 1960s coin shortage. For the average person looking at a 1965 quarter, it appears ordinary. The mint produced hundreds of millions of them. Most are worth their face value. But in numismatics, value depends not on how many coins exist but on how many exist with extraordinary errors. And when only a few coins survive with specific combinations of mistakes, their value skyrockets into realms beyond imagination. This is how a coin with a 25-cent face value climbs into the hundreds of thousands. What makes this story even more intriguing is the connection between these quarter errors and the Lincoln penny planchets. During the 1960s, the U.S. Mint used massive containers filled with thousands of blanks for different denominations. The bins were stored close together, and during the transition from silver to clad, some of these blanks were mistakenly mixed. Historical records and accounts from former mint workers reveal that the pressure to meet coin production quotas during the national coin shortage made the working environment hectic. It was not uncommon for leftover blanks to fall into the wrong bins or for presses to be temporarily re-tasked for different denominations. A quarter die striking a penny planchet was never the intended outcome, but such events happened due to the tremendous pressure to produce billions of coins during the mid-1960s. When a quarter is struck on a Lincoln penny planchet, the resulting coin is smaller, lighter, and missing part of the design because the penny blank is too small for the quarter die. This makes the coin uneven. The rim may appear weak or non-existent, and the details of the eagle or Washington may spill off the edges. If such a coin survived circulation without being rejected by mint inspectors, it becomes an ultra-rare specimen. These are the types of coins that collectors dream about, the mistakes that defy logic, created under circumstances that were unlikely to occur again. And because the mint was transitioning to new metal compositions, these wrong planchet errors have an additional layer of historical significance. The legendary example of such a mistake is a verified 1965 quarter struck on a copper planchet that was originally meant for earlier pennies. Its weight, around 3.1 grams instead of the standard 5.67 grams, revealed its impossible origin. When one of these rare quarter-penny hybrid pieces surfaced at auction, collectors immediately recognized the magnitude of the find. It was one of the clearest proofs that the transitional chaos at the mint produced specimens that contradict official mint records. As bidding began, experts knew this was not just a mistake, it was a historical artifact. And with increasing attention from wealthy collectors, its price soared to heights that seemed unreal for a 1965 quarter. Another factor contributing to the massive value is the involvement of transitional silver planchets left over from 1964. Even though the U.S. Mint officially ended silver quarter production after 1964, silver planchets were still present in the minting facilities during early 1965. When a 1965 quarter was struck on one of these leftover 90% silver blanks, it created an extremely rare transitional error coin. Only a few such pieces are known to exist, and each time one appears at auction, collectors compete fiercely for ownership. The unique combination of a 1965 date with a silver composition that was never meant to exist elevates these coins into a realm of rarity that only elite collectors can access. Now imagine a coin that combines these possibilities: a 1965 quarter struck during the transitional silver phase, using an unintended blank, bearing traces of die polishing errors, misaligned components, or ghost-like mint mark remnants left over from older dies. The convergence of all these factors makes the coin not only historically important but numismatically priceless, creating the perfect storm that leads to valuations such as $474,000. The absence of mint marks on 1965 quarters makes the possibility of ghost mint marks especially fascinating. Even though the mint officially removed mint marks from coins between 1965 and 1967, the minting equipment sometimes still carried faint residual impressions from reused or partially modified dies. These faint remnants of a mint mark, although not intentional, can appear under magnification. Collectors place substantial value on these anomalies because they reflect undocumented mint activities.